I got too many hoes. Yeah, you like to put that shit in your nose. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. You already know what to do before we get into this video. Make sure you like and subscribe if you already subscribed to the channel. And if you are subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the notification bell so you know when I post what I post for you guys. Now, I've been having a lot of comments saying you guys aren't hearing me. So I am going to make a disclaimer. But while, like the intro, and if I have little pieces to say, I will pause it. But while the video is playing, I will not be talking. If you see facial expressions, that's just my facial expressions. Or if you see, or whatever, or it's a oh my gosh, like, I'm not pausing it. And I'm sorry. I love you guys, and I just want y'all to get the video as I want you to get it through it. So yeah. Stay tuned. And also, someone asked me for the links to the videos. Some of these videos are sent to me by my friend. Some of these videos are old, like I pre-recorded them like 3 years ago, and I was supposed to react to them, and I never did. So I can't give you no link. But if I get new ones, then I can give y'all links then. So yes, please stay tuned. Let's get into it.
And she might have been responsible for many deaths, with a liberal estimate of as many as 150 people during her time. Her name was Anna di Pistoia, or according to the stories written in her name, Baba Anuchka. After many years of committing crimes without getting caught, Baba Anuchka was finally arrested and charged as an accomplice in 2 murders. But why did it take so long to arrest her? Why did she kill so many people? Who was she, and what was her journey on Earth like? Join us as we delve into the intriguing case of Baba Anuchka. Later known as Anna di Pistoia, she was born in 1838 in Romania as Anna Draxin, but even that information is yet to be proven accurate. Her life records were derived from anecdotes from people who had met her. According to Anna herself, she most likely had been born in 1836. Her father was a wealthy cattleman. She moved with her father from Romania to Vladimirovac, now called Serbia, around 1849 when she was 11. Anna and her father lived on a large estate in the village. Their town was between the cities of Vršac and Pančevo. According to many sources, the town was located in the Serbian-Hungarian-Romanian province of Banat, then the military frontier of the Habsburg monarchy. Many military families and other people from the wealthy class occupied the area at the time. She attended private school with other kids in the elite class and was perceived to be of regular behavior. She lived a comfortable life with her father during school, but this peace didn't last long. When she turned 20, Anna's life took a turn for the worse. Against her better judgment, she was seduced by a young Austrian military man and fell in love with him. Their love turned sour when she contracted syphilis from the young man, and he absconded, leaving her heart broken. The incident left her...
Oh, hell no. And, sorry. So you mean to tell me, I knew diseases were big back then, but when did they invent the condom? I should search up a video on YouTube. When did they invent the condom? Because that is wild to me. Why would you give that lady an STD? Maybe he didn't even know he had an STD. Still, wild.
Saddened and hurt, and she slowly became a misanthropist, or in other words, she hated humans. Her life from then on became secluded. All her free time was spent reading publications about medicine and chemistry, which she had initially gained an interest in while attending school. Anna, a brilliant woman, taught herself to speak 5 languages. This in turn led to her swift advancement as a science student. However, her father pushed her to adopt societally accepted female roles and...
Speaking of different languages, I want my son to learn different languages. He's autistic, but I know he could do it. He can do anything. He can put in mind to. He's smart, so I know he can learn languages.
Arranged for her to become involved with an older man, a landowner named Pistov, also pronounced as Di Pistoia. When she married Di Pistoia, her name became Anna Di Pistoia. Anna and her husband gave birth to 11 children, or at least tried to. Only one of the children managed to survive till adulthood. It seemed that tragedy and death were bound to follow Anna around because her husband also died 20 years into their marriage. While the loss was hard on her, it did not kill her passion for chemistry and science. After the death of her husband in her 50s, she set up a laboratory in one wing of her husband's house and became a self-acclaimed healer and herbalist in the city. The laboratory became a sort of alchemist workshop where she learned to mix and match potions, learning the dose.
So So she a witch then? Is that what you're telling us? She's a witch.
Of certain medicines and poisons that could affect humans. This was around the 19th century, and since she was a woman, most of her clientele were farmers' wives within the city and the neighbouring communities. They came to her regarding many of their health problems, and she was able to make money and earn a respectable living as a widow. Her fame spread far and wide, and she was responsible for saving many people's lives, since the 19th century was plagued with war, sickness and hardship. Her transition from healer to killer was unexpected, as she was loved by the members of her community and known to be a sweet old lady. Her only dark side had been that she had experienced significant loss in her lifetime. Initially, men approached her, looking to escape being sent to military service. Since her expertise was in concocting medicines and mixtures, she knew the correct dosage of a drug or poison that could make a man ill enough to be exempted. She also became famous for her magic water, also known as the love potion, which were poisonous mixtures she sold to men and women alike. To the women who were married and wanted to escape domestic abuse and a life of hardship, she sold her magic water, which was meant to cause the deaths of their husbands. The men would die after 8 days, with the poisonous substance undetectable in their bodies. The love potion...
See, I know y'all remember those shows called Snapped. I can understand why people do what they do, but it's like, look, you could just leave. Or kick that motherfucker out. Eventually, you're just gonna, like, I don't know what makes a person go that crazy, but damn.
Was also famous. It contained small quantities of arsenic and specific plant toxins that were hard to detect. When the married women came and recounted their horrible experiences, she usually only had one question: how heavy is that problem? This was both a code and a question, secretly wanting to know if the women were willing to kill their husbands and invariably asking them what the weight of their husbands was. The answer would help her determine the dose of poison she needed to carry out the murder. Once her potions were complete, she handed them over to the wives, who only had to follow her instructions to give their husbands the punishment they felt they deserved. In the real sense of it, Anna only provided the weapon for the crime, and the real perpetrators of said crime were the scorned wives in question. The victims of these potions were primarily young, healthy men in the prime of their lives. Their crime? Subjecting their wives to an unhappy life. And then suddenly, these men died unexpectedly in what was a planned plot by their scorned wives and the famous healer Baba Anuchka. As news of her healing abilities spread through the country, more and more women visited Anna with their problems, and she, in turn, sold more and more of her solutions. Romanian authorities to this day cannot determine how many people were killed during that time, but witness reports and claims suggest that it could be anywhere from 50 people to 150 people. When they would be questioned later, the majority of the women who had sought Anuchka's solutions claimed they had no idea poisons were being used in her mixtures. According to these women, they truly believed Anjuka was a witch who had supernatural powers to curse a person and ultimately kill them. While many people believed Anjuka to be an actual witch, they thought she was of the good kind. With her healing prowess and killing abilities, she had rightfully gained the notoriety of a vengeful witch. This was the period she became known as Baba Anuchka, or the Little Mother Anjushka. Her other names were the Witch of Vladimirovac and the Barnet Witch. The women who had sought Anjuka's help in killing their husbands were mainly able to get away with it because their families refused to allow the authorities to look into the mysterious deaths. Though the sudden sickness that followed the consumption of the magic water was suspicious, many families chucked it off as typical or as a result of an ongoing plague, but the truth would not be hidden for so long. Soon, the real reason for the illnesses and deaths would come to light. Around 1920, Anna's practice was still doing very well, but she still needed help procuring new customers. She employed a sales agent, a woman called Lubina Milankov. Lubina was responsible for
She was just making money, killing people. Just killing people, making money.
spreading the practice, telling women about Anushka's achievements in traditional healing, and engaging potential clients. When Lubina found a client, she would listen to their stories, and then lead them to the house of Anuka. When Anuka determined they were worthy to purchase the potion, after hearing their individual stories, she sold it to them with instructions. Depending on the wealth and status of the clientele, the price of the magic water potions fluctuated between 2,000 and 10,000 Yugoslav dinars. It was the beginning of the end when, for the first time in 1914, Anushka Anushka was arrested and went to trial in the city of Bela Kirkova for her part in some murders that took place. She was charged with providing poisons used in killing several men, but since there was no concrete evidence of the use of poisons for those deaths, the authorities had nothing to prosecute her with. She was acquitted and released. She soon returned to her business, and her clientele quickly returned. Amongst them was a woman named Stana Momirov. Stana would ultimately lead to Anjuka's downfall. Here's how. In 1924, Anushka sold one of her potions to Stana for 2,300 dinars. Before now, Stana was already a loyal lab customer. She had come to purchase herbal concoctions for various health problems on many occasions. During this time, however, she shared her story, which was not about any sicknesses with the healer. Anjuka suggested using the potion. That was the beginning of the unfortunate relationship that would officially tag Anushka as responsible for the many deaths in the city. Stana left the lab with the magic water and fed it to her husband, Lazar Ludowski. It did its job, and a few days later, her husband died of unknown causes. However, the relationship between the two women did not end there. When Stana later married again, this time a man from the same village, there was still talk about Stana's first husband's death. After Stana's second marriage, her new husband's wealthy uncle, who had become a bone of contention for her, suddenly died of unknown causes, just like her first husband. The truth was that Stana had returned to Baba Anushka for more of their magic water, with yet another story. This time, however, was unlike the previous incidents. The authorities got involved, investigations began, and several family members started talking. When her father-in-law also died soon after, all eyes turned to Stana. When they were able to link the deaths of all three men, the force of their investigations was directed at Stana, and during questioning she mentioned the old healer who had sold her a potion. It was hard to believe that the sweet old lady, whom everyone in the community knew to provide healing services, could be responsible for the murders. The police continued their investigations to find out what the truth was. In December of 1926, Nikola Momirov, a 70-year-old man and the father of Sima Momirov and father-in-law of Sofia Momirov, died from unknown causes. It was also linked to Anushka. According to the story, Nikola was an abusive father and grandfather to his grandchildren. He had terrorized the family for a long time, and then Sima, who had been married into...
At this point, just killing people because they're giving you these reasons, but no one in their right mind would just go to someone and be like, yeah, I want to kill my husband. No one. And I said what I said.
The family for a time heard about Baba Anushka. Her informant was Danica Stojic, another woman who had employed Anushka's services. The two contacted Baba Anushka and purchased the magic water for about 5,000 dinars. When Sofija had the potion, she instructed her 16-year-old daughter, Olga Sturza, to feed it to her grandfather and ensure he drank it. The young girl did as she was told, and Nikola Momirov fell ill and died 2 weeks later. The deaths raised the suspicions of the authorities, who looked into the part Anushka played in the incidents. This time, the families could not get away with the death and were forced by the authorities to agree to an autopsy. In 1928, Baba Anushka was finally arrested. At the age of 90, she became a person of interest in the murders involving Nikola and Sofija Momirov. The authorities also arrested other women for their involvement in the murders of Lazar Ludowski and Nikola Momirov. These were Lubina, Anna's saleswoman, Sima Momirov, Anna's client Danica Stojic, and Olga Sturza, the 16-year-old girl dragged into all these. During their investigations, the police exhumed the bodies of the late men to carry out autopsies that took place at the University of Belgrade. Anna's second trial started in the middle of 1929 at the Pančevo District Court. The court hearings were held from the 18th of June 1929 through the 19th of June 1929. On the 1st of July, the proceeding was back in court with the results from the chemical testing of samples of substances that were found in Baba Anushka's laboratory. The test results led the trial to end in a guilty verdict. A key witness and an expert scientist, Dr. Branko Vordelia, testified that the autopsy had revealed traces of arsenic in both of the victims' bodies. The prosecuting party requested the guilty party be sentenced to death, except for Olga Sturza, who was the youngest of the entire party. She was to be sentenced to prison to pay for her crimes regardless. The defense from Sofija and Sima Momirov was that they were not involved in any plan to kill Nikola Momirov. Sofia claimed she had approached Anushka because she had heard of her supernatural powers and knew nothing about poison. To them, the magic water was just water, and the death was from a curse placed on their victim. On the other hand, Stana Momirov completely denied wanting to kill her husband. According to her, she had only wanted to cure his excessive alcohol drinking and bought the magic water, hoping it would do that. Both claims from the two parties were untrue, as they had sought out Anna's services, knowing fully what she offered. Anushka, on the other hand, simply denied the charges. She denied ever selling magic water, and that Lubina Milankov was fabricating her. She blamed her employee for being responsible for the crimes and claimed to be innocent, but the trial concluded when young Olga Sturza confessed, defending herself and incriminating all the other parties involved. Her statement said that she was not aware that the water she made her grandfather drink would kill him, but she later testified that her mother, Sofija, was very much aware of the plot and had planned with her father to commit the crime. Sturza pleaded her case, stating that she was only a child at the time of the incident and knew nothing of the plot. After almost a month of the trial, the judge released his verdict. Baba Anujika was sentenced to 15 years in prison for the roles she played in the murders of Lazar Ludowski and Nikola Momirov. Both Stana and Sofija were sentenced to
only 15. They gonna add on more charges for the rest of the murders? Cause only 15. If y'all said she murdered 150 people, only 15 years, and then y'all say she a witch? That's insane.
Life in prison as the main perpetrators of the crime. Sima Momirov received only 15 years, while Lubina received 8 years. Both Olga Sturza and Danica Stojic were acquitted of all charges. Unhappy with the results from the trial, both the prosecution and the defense appealed the verdicts at the Novi Sad Court of Appeals. The trial was set for November 1929. This time the prosecution demanded that the guilty party receive capital punishment. During the trial, Sima and Sofia were cross-examined, and they finally admitted to their intention to commit the crime. The other party stood by their initial statements, but at the end of the trial, on November 30th, 1929, they all received new sentences. Anujka was resentenced to prison for 15 years, but this time with hard labor. Stana and Sofija received the initial sentence of life in prison, in addition to Sima Momirov, who was found to have played a more significant part. Lubina got 10 years this time, and Sturza and Stojic were reacquitted. Life in the women's prison proved to be very tough for Anujka. As she was old and unused to the rugged life of the reform, she spent a lot of time in the prison hospital. 8 years after her initial prison sentence in 1929, at the age of 98, Baba Anujka was released from prison due to her old age. It was 1936, and even though public outcry might have thought it unfair, there was no point keeping the old, sickly widow locked up. When interviewed by the journalists, she insisted that she was innocent and played no part in the crimes that took place. To that end, there was no written or oral statement from Anna admitting to creating poison to help women kill their husbands. For the last years of her life, Baba Anujka moved back to her father's house in Vladimirovac in September of 1938, where she lived peacefully till her death 2 years later at 100 years of age. Some public opinion agrees that Baba Anujka was not your typical serial killer who was on a quest for blood. Instead, she was revered as a woman who helped hundreds of women at a time when there was no real solution to domestic abuse within the family. Arranged marriages were prevalent at the time, and most women did not know what they were getting themselves into. And since divorce was unheard of, there were no other means to escape the hellish arrangements. Not only did she help women, but she saved the lives of many men who wanted to escape going to war.
Okay, you guys, what do you think about this video? Now, in my opinion, I get the part where he's saying about domestic violence and also helping men not wanting to go to war because they were being forced to go there, and just thinking about women who were forced to marry certain people that were actually getting abused and beaten and could have easily died too. So in the same instance, I understand. And then back in those times, you couldn't get a divorce. You couldn't just leave your husband. You were a woman of who you married. You didn't have no job. You didn't have any money. You were your last name. So I kind of get it, but at the same time, I'm like, damn. Maybe it was like an underworld world type situation, they could run away. But then in the same instance, it's probably like a slave and slave master situation. Even though that's your husband and you're his wife, you're still probably a slave to him. So let me know your opinion down in the comment section. That's all for this video, you guys. I hope you guys liked it, and I hope the audio is working for you guys today. Please let me know, and thank you, and I love you guys, and bye-bye.
All I want